Who's this? Oh, you're an entrepreneur? Oh, you're a real estate investor. Oh, you're trying to learn from those who did it. Well, come into the lab then. Put your white coat on, gloves on, notepad, and let's build, y'all.
Real estate experiment. What is happening, y'all? Today we have Ola Dantis, and we're over here laughing in the background because it's been well overdue. But my friend, I'm so happy to have you step into the lab with your white coat on, ready to talk tactical practicality. And first of all, I want to introduce you because you're doing some wonderful things in the space. So Ola, welcome to the lab, my friend.
Thank you so much.
And I like having people like you because you're a practitioner and you're also someone who's we were talking about this. You're making good money at your job and you're also building empire. And I want to talk about that because we were talking offline, just like there's this idea that it's the extreme, one or the other, and you're doing both. So first of all, I always like to talk about the person behind the business because you're a reflection of what your business is and the people who are around with you. So first tell me about Ola before and who is Ola today.
Yeah, I mean, I think I definitely, that's like my favorite part. And, I'm a storyteller, so I could be long-winded. So please feel free to jump in and cut me off as we go through.
I promise that I will, because you and I just talked about how precious time is and how we all make it work.
I know. Because my wife and baby, they're waiting for me to spend time with them as well.
Absolutely. We'll have a hard stop. But go ahead.
Well, I'm Ola Dantis, originally from Nigeria. So any Nigerians listening, whoop, whoop. Kind of grew up in the UK, lived in the UK for quite some time now, living in America. Like to mention that as well. So I was actually introduced to real estate by a good friend of mine. This is the nugget, so pay attention. My friend called me up and said, "Hey, Ola, can you come fly to Dubai and meet me and help me with my business that I'm doing?" His business is based out of the UK. It's a real estate business. So obviously I did two things a wise man would do. I prayed about it. Someone just called and said, "Hey, come over to Dubai and help me on my business." And so I prayed about it and I spoke to my wife. So obviously, my wife was like, "Well, you guys could Zoom, you could Skype. I mean, why do you want to go this way?" And I was like, maybe I could go learn something. So I was on the plane. Long story short, went to Dubai, saw my friend was really doing well. I was like, "Oh, wow, he's doing this in the UK and he's doing pretty well, this real estate thing." I didn't even know what real estate was. On my way back from Dubai, I was like, "Wow, I think I can do this." So when I go back, I started going, getting into the books, podcasts like yours, bigger pockets, learning about real estate. I narrowed down to multifamily. So 4 or 5 months after I got back, talk about taking action, I bought our first duplex. My wife and I bought our first building. It was a duplex in the Class A area in Baltimore, Maryland. So the nugget there was, a lot of people think success comes in a red, in a golden box with a red ribbon. Never. Success could be a phone call. So as you're living your life, going through life, pay attention, right? Second thing is, you hear this all the time. It's such a cliche. Take action. Literally take action. Like when you hear about something, I go to meetup groups, people are going every week. They haven't bought a property. You have to do something. Even if you fail, it does not matter. So taking action as well. So we bought this duplex. I'm talking really fast, aren't I?
No, you're raking it.
It's like on times one or something. But anyway, we bought this duplex, and then, a couple of months, I think it was, and my wife and I were, at home, on a typical night, doing what lovers do, cooking. And basically we're like, our account is just getting fat because we have this new duplex and, the tenants are basically paying most of the mortgage. So we're like, oh my God, if we could do this 10 more times, like, wow, that would be hit. This was a cash cow, right? So we thought, wow, we could scale up. So that's kind of when I started looking into apartments. And since then, kind of fast forward, my partners and I, we, own and manage about just a little bit over 1,000. So that's LP investments and active deals. Recently just left my properties in Baltimore, Maryland, now moved to Houston, Texas, sacrifice, pay attention, to scale up the business now, Dwellynn, which is on my shirt right here, if you can see. Yeah.
Represent.
So we're just trying to do that. That's really the premise for the move, was to really be where the property is, or the properties that we're really interested in, and the market that we like. In multifamily syndication, there's two things: find capital and find deals. So I kind of just really zoned in on the deals, because I know when I find good deals, hopefully I can build a lot of relationships, right? From California and New York, where the capital are, to help buy these deals. But never believe when you find deals, the capital comes thing that they tell you on podcast doesn't work. We can talk about that later.
Well, definitely sounds like a two strong pillars to build on. But first of all, that was great, and I'm so glad you're hitting all these key points that I like talking about, which is taking action, which essentially is what my brand stands for. Experimenting is an experience. You can't experience something without taking action. So essentially, that's what it is. But you mentioned multifamily right away. You did research 4 to 5 months. Some people sit 4 to 5 years, and I'm glad you brought that up. So how did you narrow it down to just multifamily? Was it what you saw with your friend, or was it just, you know what, let's start with this and see where it takes us? Which one was it?
Good question, actually. So my friend actually does a niche type of real estate in London. He actually gets church buildings for pastors. Yeah.
No, that's epic. I've never heard of that.
Yeah. So actually, when I got back home, I just Googled real estate, like literally elementary stuff. Like, I don't know what real estate, like I know real estate, but what is it? So, obviously started, researching, and then I liked the idea of multifamily in terms of like, how you can house hack. So that's what we did, my wife and I.
Okay, so that duplex was a house hack.
It was an house hack. Yeah, definitely. So that's really what attracted me to that. I wasn't even thinking of apartments. I mean, I didn't know anything about real estate, right? So it was just kind of like duplex, and then we bought a duplex. We're like, oh my God, what if we do this at a bigger scale?
And want to talk about that for a bit, because I think it's good for people. We have a lot of people talk multifamily, we have syndicators on here, but I think people can relate with you a little bit more in the beginning, which I think is fascinating. So when you got the duplex, this was in Baltimore, correct?
Correct. Yep, it was in Baltimore, Maryland.
And you started looking at, you're sitting with your wife at dinner, looking at the account. Was it at a point where you were paying half of the mortgage, or even though the duplex was kind of almost paying for itself? Like,
it was
level were you at?
Yeah, good question. So at that point, we had 2 tenants upstairs, kind of sharing a unit, and they were paying for I'll say most of the mortgage, and like the rest, my wife was paying for. It was so tiny, like I didn't even have to pay for it. So like, all the income that I had was just sitting there, almost like doing nothing. I was like, oh wow! Every time I look into my Bank of America app on my iPhone, it's just like, oh wow, is this mine? Like, did this money? Because normally, I want folks to pay attention, right? Because normally before that, I would get paid and it would go right out. Right. So I made this change in my life and started to say the manifestation. So people are saying, oh, I don't have enough money, or I don't know what to do. But literally sometimes it's just one shift in your life that could show up exponentially, but you also have to pay attention. Right.
Okay.
I could have been balling and flossing and I wouldn't see all that money. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. No, and I'm so glad you touched on that, because I believe the most expensive expense in itself is rent. So I think when people can see that, and then you kind of create this momentum of, okay, wait, don't. And it's so funny you say that, because in business it's the same idea. It's like, wow, that worked. Why don't I just double down on it and pour fuel to the fire? So, but I think you need to experience that, and so that's so interesting. But what I love about what you're saying is you took action right away, and you obviously sacrificed, right? And I want to talk about that, because it sounds like you're doubling down on your business, and you said, you know what, we're going to Houston. Was that the move primarily? Like, this is building my empire, this is why we're going to Houston? Or tell me a little bit more about that.
I mean, there's so many things to talk about, right? I mean, you get into these businesses and you start to, do research, and you have expectations and you set goals for yourself. And then things don't move as quickly as you want them to. Okay. And you start to compare yourselves to your players. But for people that look like me and you, it's a different game. Okay. There's a book I'm reading now, Simon Sinek. It's called The Infinity Game. And he talked about how you don't set the rules. You don't set the rules. You don't choose the game. All you have to do is, how do you play the game? I am saying a lot of stuff, but not saying anything. But I'll give you a statistic, right? So I think the number is 69 trillion. So 12 zeros were invested in real estate, I think in 2017. So 69 trillion. In global, let's say global real estate in the United States, whatever. Of that money, that capital,
Mhm.
1.3 went to women. So this is all women, including white women and minorities. Okay. The rest went to white men. I don't think it's a racist thing. I don't think it's a racism
No,
thing.
this is good.
It's
Like, I
it's
like you talking about this. Yeah.
yeah, it's just a thing. That's just the world. It's like most CEOs are white men. It's not, that's just the world we live in.
Mhm.
So, as we're looking at our business, we're starting to think, well, yeah, maybe sourcing capital might be a little bit difficult because we know the odds, right? But if we get deals, we know that's not going to that might not get us capital, but at least we know we have deals, because in multifamily syndication, you need two things: you need deals and you need money. So for us, just to go back to your question, we have to figure out, like, okay, what do we have to do next to really pivot and really grow our business? So there's two things we want to do. Is we want to get closer to the market that we like, which is Houston, for a variety of reasons. And then we want to be really, really close to really good deals and a state, which is Texas, that a lot of investors like. So for us, that was a strategic move. Second thing is we're trying to build our company, Dwellynn.com, into a vertically integrated real estate, servicing company. Right, it's a mouthful. Essentially, what that means is we're going to be doing everything over time. So property management, asset management, investor relations, construction and development. After a while, so coming here and sticking our green flag next to the American flag is saying we're going to build our headquarters here and we're going to grow here. So that's kind of the idea.
Wow. First of all, I love that fact, the 69 trillion. And I want to make sure that didn't slip through the cracks. And then you open up the door, and I think it's a really good door to open and talk about. You talk about minorities, etc. Look, I think it's so great what you're talking about, because there's a real disparity with the amount of consumption versus production in our, I don't want to say culture, but it's the environments, right, that you're in. And I think if you can switch the narrative and play around with the blueprint and show the other way that you can be a producer, that's what it's all about. And but I like how your approach, and we don't have too many people who talk about that, because that's one of my fire questions when I talk about, do you want to outsource or self-manage? Why is that important for you to create a vertical integration? Like, I don't hear that people blatantly talk about that, but why is that important to you, Ola?
So, in the syndication world, in the multifamily syndication world, so I'll be considered a multifamily syndicator. For those that don't really know what that means, it just means you bring a group of people and a bunch of capital together to take down a building, in this case, apartment community, that you cannot take down by yourself. So that's what syndication means, right?
And take down by yourself financially, correct?
Financially, right? Most, of course, right? Unless you're a Saudi prince, even if you're a Saudi prince, you probably need a team of lawyers and people to help you out with that. So that's essentially what that is. So in the syndication world, it's really frowned upon to actually have in-house management. And the reason is because it feels like if you have management, property management in-house, it would remove your focus from asset management, right? Which is basically managing the property management company.
Conflict of interest, is that what we're saying? Or
no, it's just sheer work. It's just a lot of work, right?
Like overlap.
No, it's just like literally property management is literally brain damaging work, because it's literally adult daycare. Like if you've seen an apartment, which most of our listeners will say, it's just an adult daycare. Okay. That's what we call it. So most syndicators don't want to do that because it's so much work. But now what we're trying to do is, I'm not going to be the one managing the properties. I'm going to employ someone within Dwellynn, give them a title of vice president, property management, and they report to me as the CEO. So we don't have to do that. So that's one way to do it. But the real reason we're doing this is no one is going to take care of our properties like we would. I don't care what anyone tells me. No one is going to take care of our properties like we would. Okay?
In other words, no one has your best interest. Do you want to elaborate on that? Because there are tons of property managers out there who are like, hey, what are you talking about? I can help and maybe do a good job, but like maybe you have this different vision. What does that mean for you to do things the right way?
Because we feel like we have, or we can build upon the specific competencies that would match our values and our vision of our company. That a third party management company is not. I love property managers, by the way. If you're out there, I love you guys. But for us, it just isn't there, like that connection. So that's one thing, though, in terms of like, kind of alignment of interest, values, and like how we do things. Like it's a culture, right, in Dwellynn. The second thing is really for our investors, right? So if we bring property management in-house, it's not a great profit center, right? Standalone, right? But when we integrate it, right, which means we can be constructing a 100 unit or 200 unit apartment building, but we can use those guys as well with some of our, it's a whole process. We can save money and increase some of our proceeds to our investors, because now we have a one-stop shop. Yeah. Right. So that's the idea, is to basically give more returns to our investors and take care of our properties because it's our properties.
I'm really curious, and I haven't seen this yet. Maybe this is a longer conversation. Maybe you might give me a peek one of these days as we grow our relationship. But I would love to see like the P&Ls. I wonder, when it's integrated in-house, does it look the same? Like, do you have the 8%? Or you still have a salary for the folks? I mean, obviously you do, but I'm wondering where you can kind of move things around a little bit differently as it compares to having somebody like a third party come in.
Yeah, that's such a good question. I know exactly where you're going with this. So what we're going to do is going to have separate lines of business. So we'd have the investment, the property management, and maybe construction, right? So we will have different lines of businesses, and our P&L would be segmented based on those line items. So that will be the overarching P&L stroke balance sheet. But of course, for individual apartments, we're going to have the same P&Ls, but it's all monopoly money, meaning Dwellynn Property Management would pay Dwellynn Investment the proceeds, but Dwellynn Investment would pay Dwellynn Property Management a property management fee of 3%. But it's just monopoly money, right?
I'm sure that could get very interesting on an accounting level.
We're gonna get a really good accountant.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, I'm sure there could be some perks there, and I'd love to take that conversation offline someday with you. But awesome. So like your insight, I think one of the things I want to hone into as well, that you keep on dropping these great gems that I want to make sure don't slip through the cracks. You mentioned how in the beginning it's not easy to just find a deal and the money will come. I want to specifically talk about this with you because we talked about this offline. You're still working and you're building this company and you're a thousand. Okay, let's take a step back. Let's talk about finding capital and let's talk about finding the deals. How are you making the time for the two, and what does that look like for you and your operation?
Yeah, I mean, there's a variety of ways to raise money, one of which is having a thought leadership platform, which is what we're using right now, podcasting. There you go. So we have a podcast as well. The Dwellynn Show, drop us a review.
Definitely.
So that helps to raise funds. Obviously, we have some other activities that we do as well, social media, just kind of different outlets. I've raised money on Instagram, so we do things like that to help us to raise money. But not enough money, to take down some of these big deals that we're looking. That's why we coalesce and we partner with other syndicators. That's what we do. That's kind of how we grow. And that's what we're trying to do to grow pretty quickly, actually.
Did you say you partner with other syndicators, meaning maybe other multiple GPs on the deal?
Correct. That's actually what we do, actually.
Okay, cool. So now it's a we and it's bigger than you, but in the beginning, and I want to talk about like the second phase of the beginning. You got the duplex. What did that next phase look like for that first apartment deal?
Yeah. So if you're out there and you're thinking of, I want to buy apartments and
no, I want to be like Ola. That's what.
Oh man!
And I want to have that accent too. You know how intelligent you sound raising capital.
That is so funny. Well, you probably don't want to be Ola. If you're out there, do not be Ola. So much work. Every time I get a call or somebody reaches out on Bigger Pockets or LinkedIn and say, Ola, I want to syndicate deals, and like the honest truth, like I'm not those other guys. Like, come and get my course, your life is gonna be better. No, like this stuff is hard. Yeah. Like this stuff is hard. So to go back to your question though, you need a mentor. Like forget it. Like Not you, the listeners. Your brains are telling you, you can do this. I can do this by myself. You cannot. Nobody can. Even Grant Cardone. Do not believe the hype on Instagram.
Yeah.
As a whole bunch of guys.
Yeah.
In the background.
Underwriting. Yeah. Especially when you talk
constantly.
Let's talk about this for a second. When you say, I look at X amount of deals a day, 100 deals a day, no one's doing that by themselves.
It's impossible. You have a headache. You have a stroke at the end of it.
Or cabin fever, which is what I'm feeling right now. But, okay, so let's talk about, but like, I love that because I want to talk about that transition. Like, this is going to be great because you're just so down to earth and you're willing to talk about it. So it's really hard. Get yourself a mentor. Is that exactly what you did, or you learned some things the hard way and then you said, I got to get a mentor? Like, what came first?
No, I just got a mentor because I knew that buying a duplex, I already did that. Like, you know, I didn't need a mentor, but now I'm this kid from Africa trying to buy. I mean, people that were born here in America probably can't even do this, right?
Represent.
Yeah, I just have to say that. You know, but I knew that I needed someone that was doing it, and I found a great mentor. Is one of the best, if not, in my opinion, the best. It's just so humble, and I went with him because I saw a little bit of myself in him. Like, for me, I'm not like the old Lamborghini, you know, flashing on Insta. It's not my style. I'm just like, you probably can tell talking to me for like, you know, 27 minutes. Like, it's just not my style. So I found a mentor, and pay attention, the listeners. Don't just look at someone and say, I want to be like that person. Do not do that. Make sure you find someone that you can connect to, relate to, and that's how you can have a better chance of succeeding, especially if you look like me.
Yeah, because I think that's important, especially if you look like me. And you got to like the person, not so much the outcome, but connect with them. So in the lab, we like tactical approach. It doesn't mean it's going to be exactly like what you did, but what are some of the things that you've seen? I mean, look, I have so many people who've come into this lab who are doing amazing things like you are. And it's just, the proof is in the pudding, and success leaves trails, right? If you were to look amongst your peers, the way they found mentors and the way they're surrounding themselves with people, I know sometimes it's hard, hindsight is 20/20, but do you recall what that looked like? You say, is it going to meetups? Is it reaching out to someone who kind of looks like you feel you may want to grab coffee with? What does that tactically look like? Especially, let's talk about this, let me preface this, when you feel you may not have enough to offer, which I know a lot of people feel this way,
Well, this is what I'm going to say. You have one thing to offer, and that one thing is pretty much accepted all over the world. It's called money. Okay?
Pay it down, y'all.
So now I can hear you know, one of the listeners or a few of the listeners saying, yeah, but I don't have money. And that's fine, but you are going to need money. So I know you've heard
time or money. It's
you're gonna say, yeah, you know, I watched this thing, or I went to this meetup and I said no money down real estate. Multifamily syndication, buying apartment buildings, you are going to need money. Sirs and Mars. Like, I'm sorry to break it to you. I'm not gonna be the guy, it's not my style. I'm not gonna say you don't need money. You actually do need money. Either you need money to partner up, be in a mastermind, or have a coach to help you, or you need money to buy the damn thing. Like, you just need money. Yeah. Like, it's not, now if you want to go buy a small duplex, I'm all about that. You can get that, no money down, seller financing, but you got to pay the lawyer to put the contracts in. Like you can't not have money to do real estate. Like, it just, you know,
well, it's time or money, right? Either, I mean, look, I like how you're saying that multifamily things for sure, and I want to kind of get to that. There's coaches you can pay for, there's masterminds you can pay for, which I spent a lot on my education. I spent a lot on masterminds, networking, and it sounds like that's what you're kind of leading. Now, you have to be in front of people who are doing the thing, right, that you want to do.
Yeah, because, like, you know, when I was like starting now, don't get me wrong, I know there's somebody listening to this game. I don't want to pay no money. I don't want them to take my money. I was like you, but the reality is this, and pay attention for anyone that has that mindset. The reality is this. So you want to pay a guy or girl to show you what they're doing. think about it for a second. That guy or girl has a wife or husband and a kid and uncles and aunts, and they want to spend their time. But you're saying, hey, look at me. I want to do what you're doing. And they're like, hey, but how do I know you're serious? Are you not going to waste my time? Well, one way to show that is give them money, and then they know that you're serious. Now, another way you can argue, and I think, Ruben, you touched on it, is time. But realistically, some of these people don't need your time. Let's just be frank. Like, they don't need, everybody says, can I have, you cannot. What I would give to you to do, or I challenge you, any of your listeners, email me tomorrow or go on Instagram, Ola Dantis. I challenge you, give me your time and I will give you my coaching program for free, and I guarantee you won't last a month. It's just a lot of work. Yeah. I have people run away all the time. So think about it. But if you give me money or you give somebody else money, at least if you don't do the work, that's your business. You've paid, right? But you didn't do the work. And that's fine. It doesn't mean you're a bad person. It's just a lot of work. It's a lot of sheer grinding that I feel like a lot of people don't talk about because they want to just take your money. I don't want anybody's money. I'm good. But you're doing it for yourself. You're paying somebody else, not me. Go pay anybody else, Grant Cardone, whoever. But when you pay that money, it's like going to university. You've paid, so you got to put in the time. Yep. If you don't pay, you don't value it. It's a mindset thing.
I really like that. Speaking of mentors, look, we want some. Look, I know you paid for it. Maybe the listeners they're putting in their time. They want to hear a gem. So maybe, what's the best advice that you think you've received from a mentor, and what was maybe the worst advice that you've heard out there with a lot of noise? Let's start with the best advice you think you got, and it's probably I'm assuming it's probably gonna be something simple because a lot of the. But what is it? I'm curious.
Yeah, that is so good. That's such a good question. I think for me is really being nimble, right? And being flexible and kind of be ready to deploy. You know, like how, like, you know, they talk about like the Navy SEALs, like they can say you have you gotta go on a mission and they have to go 2,100 hours tomorrow night and they're like ready to go.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to be successful, I don't want to go long-winded, but if you want to be successful in life, you gotta be nimble. You gotta be able to deploy, right? It's like when we're thinking about Houston. Just to give you a timeline, we literally came to Houston, Texas. My wife and I and my little baby at the time. We looked at like 20 houses on a Saturday. At the end of it, we're like, we want that house, put an offer on it, and then we bought it. And then we moved like a month later, and then COVID-19 happened. Different story. But you have to be able to, you have to be able to, because it's called sacrifices. You know, people are like, I want to do real estate, but I'm living in my mom's basement, and then I still want to no, it's a different mindset. And it's okay for the majority of people out there going to a day job, coming home at 5:30 or 6 and checking out. That is okay. There is nothing wrong with that. Like people, I want to be loud and clear. That is very okay. But if you want to choose to come on the dark side, you got to be able to put in the hours. It takes a lot of hours to get to that level.
Okay, got it. So you're actually right going into the end phase of putting your story together, which I love. We were talking offline. You deploy, you're still nimble, you're building your multifamily empire, and you're still working. What does that sacrifice look like for someone who, we were just talking about this, plug to Tony Watley. I just had him on the show. I have to, side hustle millionaire. How do I become a side hustle millionaire like Ola? As far as getting all these properties, assets under management and still working a job. What does that look like?
I mean, I don't know what time in your time zone. You know, my time is like 5:30 here right now. We're talking. My day is just, even though I want it to end, it's probably just going to be starting. I've got a few things that I've got to catch up to. It's that. You know, I watch Bloomberg a lot. So if you're out there, David Rubenstein's show is a great one. I always watch that. And then iFlyers. So those are things I watch on my Sundays. And one of the guys that I was a co-founder of one of the biggest cybersecurity companies. And they just asked the guy like, hey, this was this Sunday, just I was watching it. And they asked the guy like, hey, you know, what makes you different from your other cybersecurity competitors? And this guy was born in like Soviet Union. Like, I don't know, he's probably in his 40s now. So it was like, you just work hard. You just work harder than your competitor. I was like, oh yeah, it's so basic. right? It's so basic, but it's just that, like, it's just sheer hard work sometimes. Yes, you got to have the mentors, you got to have, but everybody else can get a mentor. But if they don't do the work, or if they don't underwrite the deals, if they don't move to the right market, if they don't pay attention, if they don't make a sacrifice, and they don't work hard, you just won't see the success.
Absolutely. So where does most of your bulk of work come from right now? As are you primarily syndicating and raising capital and looking at deals? Like, where does your prime focus usually focus on?
Prime focus is finding good deals, and on the side, kind of building really great capital relationships and partnerships. So when the deal comes, the deal will sell itself, right? There are different things I don't want to get into, but people think like, I can just go find a deal, but yeah, you need a guarantor maybe because you're not, you don't have the balance sheet to take down any kind of big deal. And now, right now, COVID-19, you need 12 months of escrow, which means, for those that don't understand that, you need to have 12 months of mortgage. So if the mortgage is like 20 grand or 15 grand per month for the apartment building, you need times 12 of that ahead at closing. So that's a lot of what we call equity in the front end. So you need to have that kind of power to take down a deal in this current climate. People don't know things like that. So that's the reality.
So as far as when you're saying you're looking for deals, just so people understand and they're listening, are you working with brokers more? Do you have like an current asset manager who's analyzing your current, or not analyzing, but managing your current deals and then looking for others? Like whose meetings are you on? Whose calendars are you on? Like, what does a day in Ola look like, real quick?
Yeah, so we definitely have someone that actually looks at all our deals. She's an underwriter for us, and she looks at all the deals, and then we kind of get together. I underwrite it as well independently, and we come together and kind of debate why the deal is, should we offer, 7.9 or 8 million, or should we offer 8.25 or, whatever. So we'll kind of go back and forth. So in terms of, like you mentioned something at the beginning though, how do we source for deals? Brokers, right? And, when I was kind of starting up as well, I was like, brokers are not returning my calls, so I'm going to do it by myself. And we did, and we were pretty successful. But the problem is this, remember what I said about the Infinity Game, the book by Simon Sinek, Start With Why, that guy? Yes. It talks about, it's a game. To me, I really believe it's like 90% game and 10% or 20% knowledge. We can talk about that on a different podcast. So it's the game. The game right now is some human beings in this world we live in, the United States, wake up every day and call apartment owners. That's the job. Okay, that's what they do. So why am I trying to kill myself to find a deal when these guys, that's what they do all day? Let me just be friends with them. When I go meet them, I take them for lunch. Like, I'm going to make them my golf buddies. I don't even play golf, but that's what I have to do to get the deals. And that's what I'm doing. And that's why I moved as well. If anybody that's paying attention thus far.
I'm so glad you said that, because that was one of my failed experiments. I thought that I could just find things by myself, but
it's all of us. It's a rite of passage. It's okay.
Yeah, but we're taking action and hopefully in the right direction if you're following Ola's lead, which is great. Let's slide into the core rapid fire questions. Look, you already mentioned Infinity Game, which I'm definitely going to get. It's on my list. Isn't Simon the Ask Why guy?
It is the Ask Why guy. Start with why.
Yeah, start with why. He actually, that's my alma mater. I went to Brandeis. That's a shout out.
Oh, really? He's great. He's something else. He's great.
Yeah. But do you have another favorite book? You seem like you're always indulging.
Yeah, I'm a big reader. Yeah. I'm changing. This is our new house in Texas, so I'm going to have my books, my favorite things ever. If I could read books all day and not do anything, I would just do that.
I know.
So yeah, one of my favorite books is Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. It's a very fascinating book. It talks about death. I know nobody was expecting that, but I'm a big psychological buff and philosophy and things like that. So that's a really, really good book. I mean, like, it just talks about like understanding your ruling principle, which is your brain, and understanding that we have a set date here on Earth. And if you start to understand those things, it's kind of similar to Simon Sinek's book as well. That's we all would die, right? So what are you trying to do while you're here? Like, am I trying to floss on Instagram? Is that my life goal, or am I trying to live a legacy?
I like that. That's very deep. It says a lot about you, man. Very, very refreshing. What is the best habit that you serves you every day, Ola?
Oh man, that is such a good. So I'm a habit. I'm a creature of habit. I'm just weird like that. My wife is always like, I wake up early. You know, my goal is like 5 a.m. I have my green tea.
Yeah.
One thing I love doing is meditation, but I don't get to do it every day. There's always something. So, but I run and walk. I don't run, just run. I just run and walk. I'm a little bit old. Yeah, I do like 3 miles a day, and I love that. You know, I just kind of go for a run, listen to podcasts or or some kind of like running music, but basically running and meditation.
I like that. Best tool that helps you excel throughout the day.
Notion.so.
Notion?
Yep.
What is that?
It's kind of like a journaling / CRM /
snap. I'm using Quire right now. I got to check it out.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know which is better, but yeah, Notion.so. It's amazing. And let me know if you're gonna get it. I can give you a referral or something, like a link or something like that.
Okay, cool. We'll definitely have that. I'll have that in the show notes too if you guys want to give my man some love.
Yeah.
One 300-unit apartment or 3 apartments of 100 units.
Definitely 1 300-unit apartment.
That's crazy. Like 50-50 that answer from all the interesting people I've had on the show.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah. Why would you have separate? That's like separate roofs. No. Separate HVAC. No. One.
Class A or Class C?
Class A. That's the idea. That's why we're looking into construction. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Right now it's C, but in the future it will be A. Yeah.
Yeah, have a balance.
That's how you get to 10 billion or whatever.
Let's get it. Cash flow or equity?
100% cash flow. I have a quote for you. Equity is vanity. Cash flow is sanity. I'll say it again. Equity is vanity. Cash flow is sanity. Never forget that, anyone listening.
That's facts. That's crazy. Second time hearing that. I love it. Self-manage or outsource? I think your answer is self-manage.
In the
vertical
future.
integration. I love it. If you had one superpower, Ola, I know you're trying to meditate, but you're doing a lot of different things. What would that one superpower be in your life, in your current business, my friend?
To infuse love into 7 billion people. I think the world would change. I'll start with President Trump. I like him though. Well, give him some love.
God bless. Send him some love.
I'll just infuse some love into the world.
Listen, our listeners are infusing love right back to you, my friend. And how can they engage with more of what you're doing, find out more about you? Because it's been such a great show having you here. But how can the people find out more about you, Ola?
Yeah, sure. Best place to find me is investwithola.com. So investwithola.com, and that will just redirect you to our site. If you're into Instagram and you kind of want to see what I'm doing there, and just Ola Dantis, you cannot miss me. Only one in the world, Ola Dantis. You can't miss me, and I'm ubiquitous across the unisphere, the internet sphere. You cannot miss me.
Okay, and I gotta ask this because this is a plug to my agency. We help real estate professionals tell their stories, and I think you're doing a wonderful job. But how important has social media really been for you in your business?
Not that important. Like, it's kind of a 50-50. Like I was really big on Instagram, but then I realized it's just like you just waste a lot of time. Like we gotta be honest. Like, when you start to do deals, like it's just yeah. I don't want to beat the dead horse.
No. Because it sounds like a lot of these, at that level, a lot of your peers, anyways, can do without. Social media, right?
Yeah. I mean, look, I love Grant Cardone. Like, I really, really, really like him. But Grant Cardone, I don't necessarily know if he's doing all that Instagram, Snapchat stuff to raise money. Maybe he is. I think he's trying to do that.
His 506 B fund, or no, I'm sorry, it's not
506C.
Excuse me, the Regulation A Tier 2 fund, like where like a non-accredited investors can get in. I think that would be the only thing.
Yeah, but the reality is this, like, as you get bigger, like there are guys that you've never heard of.
Trust me, who are I know. I've seen them. I'm like,
yep,
they're nowhere to be found, and they own like half
Exactly. So
America. Yeah.
exactly. So
Like, yeah, he's a small player. If you want to talk about this 63 trillion you were talking about, no. There's some players out there we do not know who they are, but we
exactly. So it's just really understanding, like, you know, what you want to do there. Like, you've heard me speak for about 45 minutes. You can see I have a message for the world, and like I want to give love and things like that, and really just have honest conversations with people. That's a great outlet. An amazing outlet, you know, social media. But if you're trying to raise funds, yes, you can. But the amount of time needed, it's just a lot of time. Yeah. Like, people don't understand. Like, I understand because I've done it and I've raised money on Instagram. But when you compare the time, like if you paid yourself hourly, it's just like you don't get that return.
Love it. Well, hopefully everybody else got their return on investment with your time being spent here. And I'm sure that it will for you as well, because we have a great foundation of listeners here. So thank you so much, Ola, for your time.
Thank you.
I know you got a jet. God bless the whole family. And
God bless
just
you.
like that, we are out, my friend.